Property Patriot, you are cleared hot.
Good day, high flyers. Have you ever wondered how you could expedite firing your W-2 boss? I'm Bud Evans, the Property Patriot, and today on the Aim High podcast, we have Angel Williams. Angel and her husband Jason ditched their W-2 for real estate in very quick succession. Find out how they did it and how Angel became a key partner and podcast host. Find out how they started in real estate and how working with others helped her to grow in the space. Find out all that and more today, where we provide real estate investors with the tools to achieve generational wealth. Welcome to the Aim High podcast, show number 37. Hello, high flyers, and welcome to the Aim High podcast. This is Bud Evans, the Property Patriot. I am here today with Angel Williams. How are you, Angel?
I'm doing great. How are you?
All right, Angel. Listen, I like you. I enjoy every time we get together. You and I are in the same couple of networks, at least 2, maybe 6. I don't know how many times. It feels like 4 times a week I see you. Do me a favor, for those of you who don't know you, give me that quick, bubbly introduction that you always give.
All right, absolutely. So my name is Angel Williams. I'm the face of our educational platform. We are the Academy Presents Real Estate Investing Rocks. It is powered by Lauren Capital. Lauren Capital is our investing arm. And my partner is my husband. He's the numbers guy, and I'm the relationships person, and that's how we operate.
Yeah. And you're brilliant and bubbly and straight to the point and crush it every time. So How did you wind up in the situation that you're currently in? I know, listen, so take me back. How did you go from, I'm a school teacher to I'm knee deep in real estate, and now it makes sense that you're an educator in real estate, but how'd you get into real estate?
So it was a really natural progression. So Jason, my husband, we both grew up in families that invested in real estate. So when we bought our first house in 2003, when Jason finished up his doctorate and we were ready to move to his job, I don't think, we've talked about it, I don't think we ever even discussed selling the house. That first house just became our first rental. And the conversations we were having was, who are we going to find for the make ready? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? Who are we going to use for the property management company? Because the other thing we knew was that we were not going to self-manage. Industry standard is 10% in residential, and it is 100% worth it.
Yeah.
And so that's how we wound up with we've been in residential for about 20 years. So we have a residential portfolio, and then we got into multifamily about 5 years ago. And we've got 2 deals now that we've done on the active side. So we've got our residential portfolio, and then we have these 2 commercial deals also.
Okay. So right off the bat, you're like, boom, this is what we're doing. We're just going to jump right into this. How did that work out for you?
With the residential, we had built some wiggle room, right? We built some options for ourselves. And so for your teachers out there that are listeners, it's toxic sometimes. You have some good administrators, but you also have some really horrible ones. And I was in a situation where the work environment was incredibly toxic. I love my kids. I miss my babies. I was middle school. They weren't really babies, but I miss my kids. And it was that toxic work environment. And we had built in those buffers. We had options, and I was able to leave. And that was how I wound up full-time in real estate first. And then Jason's job moved and didn't take him with him. So in June of 22, he knew he had 6 more months of severance. That was what propelled us both into full-time real estate. And he took on the numbers and I took on the relationships. And like I said, here we are.
I'm just going to go into this and throw this out there because you and I have this mutual friend who is absolutely crazy in my mind. He's a crazy Canadian. And you guys do this thing it actually sparked an interest in me to do the real estate, not the news network, on Fridays at 10 a.m. So tell me how you met Dan and you guys are doing your thing here.
I want to say the first time I ever met Dan, it was on Brian Briscoe's Friday meetup. And he's out there.
Yeah.
I don't know any other way to explain it. He's just out there. I'm a little out there too. I don't know if you do the video with the audio, but I got purple hair. I know I'm different. It's okay. And I felt like we were pretty good. Like we could be good friends because we're both out there. And so we wound up becoming friends. He was on a lot of meetups during the pandemic, and we became friends, got a little bit closer. And so then I introduced him to my husband. And so we brought him on to our team at Lauren Capital. He does our IT tech side. He's actually a full stack developer. So it's easier for him to just code a website than to use any kind of builders or anything. So he took on our website. He took on like the tech side of things for us. And then we brought him onto our last GP team, and he's a part of Lauren Capital. So he just helps with some of the, like how we do the tech stuff and some of the syndication software and whatnot. And just been a really great person to have on the team because he offers a really different perspective. Because like I said, he's out there. And so he comes in with these different ideas that we wouldn't have thought of. And it's just really neat to have somebody like that on your team.
You guys are both great people and love to hang with. The last time you and I got on a call together, you were in space with a little spacesuit astronaut thingy going on there. Always keeping it different. So
I'd have a cool background on now, but this particular recording platform doesn't allow for one.
Yeah, it's Riverside FM. It provides real good audio quality and video quality. So when we transmit or when we transfer this over to YouTube, it looks really good. But yeah, it would be nice if they were able to do the backdrop, the virtual backdrop. But so let's go into your first deal. How did you find it? How'd you source it? Other than your own property? Because I know it wasn't just, oh, we're going to buy a rental property and then move on.
Are you talking residential or commercial?
Doesn't matter. Choose one, because I've had both commercial and residential. This is for a beginner or intermediate investor who's really just starting out, and I want to give them the full spectrum and as much knowledge as possible.
All right. So on the residential, for the first house we bought, Jason actually had his dad come to Lubbock, and I was working at Sutherland's at the time, which is a whole nother story. I'm working the lumber counter cashier with a master's degree in 2003. That's the backdrop. So I'm at work. Jason's dad comes to town, and him and Jason are looking for a house. And they found a house that was it was a rental to begin with. And so it was previously a rental. And we got it it was a 322 in a decent part of town, huge backyard. And I want to say we got it for $65,000. Now, Texas has way lower house prices than other states. And this was Lubbock, Texas, West Texas. But here's the other thing. 2003. That was before all the mayhem 07, 08, 09. Mm-hmm. We financed 100% of that house.
Okay.
So I'm working at Sutherland's. I did get a job at a private school that September for, you guessed it, $15,000 a year. My bring home was $1,001 every month. And Jason was working as a grad student, finishing up his doctorate. And we were able to get the house for $65,000, financed 100% of it. And because of the price of the house and the way things were working prior to that 07, 08, 09 mayhem, we were able to purchase a house while he was in grad school and I was working at a private school. Now, the next year I went to a public school and it literally doubled my income. I went from making $15,000 a year to $31,000 a year. So this would have been 2004. But he was still a grad student. So at that point in time, I was kind of like the breadwinner. But that was how we got the first house. Now, when we turned it into a rental, our first renter was a nightmare. Rent dodged in the middle of the night, left all of her stuff behind. And again, remember, these are 04 prices or 06, 07 prices. So it was $500 to have her stuff removed. Then we had to do another make ready. But here's the cool thing. Now, a lot of people would turn and run when something like that happens. Your first renter's a nightmare, seriously. And all of your friends are telling you that you're a moron for having a rental house anyway, because you're taking advice from people that are not where you want to be.
Yeah.
All your friends are telling you you're a moron. And Jason and I didn't even bat an eye because we both grew up in families that invested in residential real estate. So we know the trend is up. And we didn't even discuss selling it at that point. It was, okay, let's find another renter. So that was the bad experience with the first house. But if you understand that real estate is always on an upward trend, even those setbacks, do they sting? Absolutely. But you're not going to turn tail and run if you understand that over time, it's always going up.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of that first one.
Looking at the real estate graph, and we're not even talking about, we're just talking about appreciation. looking at the real estate graph, it is virtually flat comparative to the stock market itself because the stock market has so many peaks and valleys, and looks more like a very thin wavelength as it's going up, that 5 to 8% per year if you're in a conservative area and underwriting that way.
And just to prove your point, we've had the house almost 20 years now, and it's worth over $100,000 now.
Yeah. And what'd you buy it for?
65.
Yeah. Not a bad return.
Turned and ran and sold it.
And that's after one of the worst housing market crashes in recorded history.
Yeah.
So.
No, we've refied a few times since then. None of our original money is in that house. That's infinite return.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So, has there been sucky times? Absolutely. But there's sucky times in everything you do. Pick the sucky times. Pick the better of the sucky times.
Right. Let's have your assets pay you, or go out and get a really bad job where everybody sucks and you're not having a good time and you don't like the people you're working with, and been there. It's no prize. So was that tenant, was that your worst deal ever?
I don't know, because so in 21, we got our first apartment complex, and that was a whole different nightmare. We went through 2 GP teams before we finally landed on a third that got it across the finish line. And then in the first 6 months, like craziness breaks out. Maybe first 7. But so my husband...
Angel, can I ask you for a favor? Can you tell me what GPT means?
Okay. So when you do commercial multifamily, at least when we do it, when we syndicate it, you've got 2 different basically groups of people. You've got general partners, and then you've got limited partners. So your limited partners are your passive investors. And friends, if you're in residential and you think you're passive because you have a property management team, you don't know passive. Because in commercial multifamily, when you're passive, literally the only thing you do is watch distributions get deposited into your account. You don't have to field those calls about the roof because it's over the $300 limit. You don't have to field calls about, oh, the appliances just went out. Oh, we're going to have to replace this oven. Oh, we're going to have to replace this floor. Oh, foundation's looking a little iffy. You don't do any of that stuff. You literally just get distribution deposits. So there's a wide array of what passive is. And until you've gotten into commercial multifamily, you don't actually know what passive is. So just putting that out there. And so that's your limited partners. Your general partners are the ones that they're considered the operators. They're going to operate the asset. So we did our first GP deal in December of 21. It took 3 teams to get it across the finish line because the first 2 didn't make it. And also we had $100,000 of our own money that had gone hard day 1, or maybe day 14. I forget exactly, but $100,000 of our own money that was hard. It was already in the deal, whether we closed it or not. So we were desperate to get this thing closed, and we went through 3 teams to get there. And like I said, in about the first 7 months, we had some madness happen too. I saw my first ever hoarder apartment. And I'm 46, and basically I've been in real estate my whole life. I had never seen anything like that. And at the point in time, my husband's an Eagle Scout, and BSA Scouts now has girls involved. And so my husband and my oldest are at Philmont in New Mexico, no cell phone access, no internet access, nothing. And I'm handling what I call the burning. It was 2 weeks of torture. And the hoarder apartment's in there. And I had found somebody that could do the clean out. And so I was trying to take care of that. And our friend Frank Catalano is on the GP team. And I'm about to leave the complex, and I call him, and I'm on the ledge. I'm like, this is insane. I've never seen anything like this. He's like, you've been in real estate your whole life and you've never seen anything like that? He's like, whatever. Basically, he's quit whining. But that wasn't what he said, because he's nicer than that. But that was really what it felt like. Then a week before, we had gotten a call that said, oh, by the way, the property management company is dissolving. So I'm also dealing with the new property management, trying to figure out what we're doing with property management while I'm dealing with the hoarder unit and getting, I think our garage door got delivered somewhere in there after we've been waiting for it for 6 months. And just all of these things are happening. It looked like the bills weren't getting paid. So I'm trying to figure out why we have a $20,000 electric bill, and I'm calling all these people, and it's just the burning. Okay. And that's just what I call it. But I will say that even though that was horrendous, and that was 0 to 1 is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. residential or commercial. 0 to 1 it's just hard. But what I learned from that was huge. So every time my husband takes a trip, something breaks. The next time he's on a consulting gig in Houston, we get a slab leak at the house. And I'm like, yeah, so we got a slab leak. Like, I already called the plumber. They're coming out and they're going to fix it. And he's, you're really handling this well. And I sit back on it and I think about how I didn't handle it well during the burning. And there was a lot of wine, a lot of vodka, and a lot of tears during those 2 weeks. And I went to my friend Aaron Goins' meetup. He had it on Thursday that time, or during those 2 weeks. And I went, and it was tough love, which is something I've come to look for in my military friends. And this lady said, what's your why? Because your why is not going to let you be a victim. And right now you're being a victim. And I was like, okay. But it was just like, what's your why? Stop this whining. Stop this crying. What is your why and what drives you? Because being a victim is not what drives you. And I needed that in that moment because it seemed like everything that could go wrong was going wrong and everything was happening to me. And after what happened with the slab leak and my husband's like, man, you're really handling this well. I realized that I learned so much about handling just crap during the burning that it's made other things easier to handle. And I also recognized that I couldn't nitpick at things. I couldn't be so OCD because I simply didn't have the bandwidth to be OCD. For the first time in my life, I learned my limits on how much I can control, but how much I can handle. And that was cool because it meant that I wasn't screaming at my youngest, because my two youngest are trying to help me with my son Anson, which at one point, and this is like another thing that happened during the burning, I hear them yelling, Anson, Anson, and I see his naked body run down the hall with a stream of poop on the wall at about butt height. Oh. Now, Anson is our special needs son. He's 12. He's in diapers. Mentally, he's 2 or 3. And so they're trying to usher him into the shower. And I'm on a call. I'm like, or I was making supper. And I'm just like, oh my God. So it's like I couldn't even get angry about that and flip out about that because I didn't have any more bandwidth. And so that was neat. It was almost like the universe said, hey, Angel, we're going to help you out these 2 weeks so that your kids don't hate you for the rest of their lives. But it was just really neat to see, and I can look back on it now and see what it was. But at that point in time, I didn't know what it was. I was trying to cook. There's poop everywhere. Those are what we consider true situations. But it was just looking back on it, I'm like, man, that was truly a learning experience for me. And all of these things. And at one point, when I thought the electric hadn't been paid, I called my friend Lance because he's the one that does the electric contracts. And he's like, Angel, because he taught me off the ledge too. He said, would you rather have all of this stuff happen on slow drip for the next 5 years that you have this property, or would you rather get them out of the way now?
Yeah.
So he taught me off the ledge, but it was really neat to just see all of these people that came into different spots of those 2 weeks to help me deal with it and help me handle it and really help me learn from it. And I grew a lot in those 2 weeks, and my husband wasn't here to experience the same things I experienced. And so I got to learn some things that he hasn't learned on what can happen. I learned 100% that I will never be a property manager. That on-site drama is wow. And I dealt with it for 2 weeks and I'm done. I don't ever want to be a property manager.
I just started to integrate vertically my property management team.
But I think that's different because we're looking at that too. But that doesn't mean you have to be the on-site person.
No, definitely not.
I think that is the big difference.
All right. So that all turned out. You used other people to help you through the problems. You found the right people. You found your who and didn't have to worry about the how anymore. So now do you still have that property or did you sell it? How did that turn out?
We still have it. We are in year 2. So that was one that we closed in December of 21. And like I said, we still have it. We will, we don't intend to get rid of it anytime soon. The business plan was 5 years, I believe, maybe with a potential to hold for 7 if we needed to. So we still have it, and I've learned a lot, and it's been a wild ride. But I'll say this too, even though we just have those 2 properties active side,
Mhm.
we were the lead sponsors on our own first deal. We are the
Great.
lead sponsors on our second deal. And the difference in experience from being a lead sponsor and being an active GP member, the difference between that and say what somebody's going to learn in a co-GP position or in a position where they have a more minor role
Mhm.
is profound. It's huge, because what I can talk about and the experiences that I've had as a lead, I can talk to people that have been co-GPs on 12 deals and nowhere near the same education.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a coach thing. It wasn't a, hey, I listened to a bazillion podcasts. It wasn't any of that. It was just the experience that we've had and what we've been through. And it's been insane.
Yeah, that's very well said, because there are a lot of people who are like, I want to get into commercial multifamily. And I'm like, which part do you want to get into? Because if you're going to be the main person, like, you got a lot of education that you got to learn really quickly.
Yeah. And we have an amazing coach. So I don't know how many people talk about their coaches, but like, our coach is Joe Fairless.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so when we were getting that first deal done, like, we were calling him like every day. And he was like, hey, this is just how it goes. If something's going to happen, it's going to happen. And it's probably going to happen.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
the cool thing is he was on the seller side of what we were going through as buyers. And he was like, this is just how it goes. And it was the second team that our experienced person kept saying, no, this isn't how it goes. It shouldn't be like this. And so that was why that team broke up, because people's risk tolerances are so different.
Mhm.
And you don't know what someone's risk tolerance is until you are in that moment. And so that was really the reason why the second team didn't make it, was the variance in risk tolerances. And we're in a meeting one night. I said, look, I realize this person has 100 million in assets under management, but Joe is saying this is normal. And Joe has, like, at that point in time, it was like 1.7 billion in assets under management. Now he's at like 2.8. Yeah. But I was like, are we going to listen to someone that has millions in assets under management or someone that has billions? I'm going to listen to the person that has billions.
Yeah.
And we stuck with it. And I think I know that there were people from that second team that wish they would have stuck it out. But you just never know. Was it scary? Yes, it was scary. We went through 12 or 15 loan products and none of them worked. We had $100,000 on the line, which, by the way, we had borrowed from Jason's mom. So okay. Yes, it was ours, but yeah. So that was going to get real ugly.
Oh man,
there were so many things.
But it all turned out okay, though, right?
Yeah, we've got it. It's cash flowing.
Yeah,
it's been a learning experience. I just can't imagine if we hadn't been able to get this deal. Like, where would we be at? I have no clue. I might.
You just had a post on LinkedIn, if I remember right, about your. I thought it was beautiful, by the way. It's basically, I mean, if that's not a why, I don't know what is. Can you talk about that? Is that okay?
Can. So our son was born in August of 2010, and we knew something was going on. It was just a feeling. Our daughter, our oldest, did things super fast. So like, she's rolling at 2 weeks. I'm like, what? So I put her back on her stomach. She rolls the other direction. I'm like, that's odd. So that was ahead, and she was holding her head up earlier. There were just things that she was doing that were early. And so we waited for 2 years. We were doing the 2-year gap. And then we decided we were going to have Anson. So we get pregnant with Anson, and at an ultrasound, they found a spot on his heart. Well, a spot on the heart is a soft marker for Down syndrome. I was older. I was 33. So they said, okay, we're going to send you for a level 2 sonogram in DFW. So we drove there, and the doctor there was hilarious. He was, I don't know exactly where he was from, but he had a very thick accent. And he was like, no, I don't believe this child has Down syndrome. I believe this child is a champion, but said it with that thick accent. And it was just hilarious. So we were like, okay, we don't have to worry. He's like, You're not doing an amniocentesis, but I'm 99% sure that this is not Down syndrome. It wasn't Down syndrome. What I believe now is that spot on the heart isn't just a soft marker for Downs, but is a soft marker for additional chromosomal material. Because Anson has an extra partial chromosome. He's got an extra partial 15th. And the area that's copied over is the area that causes Angelman syndrome or Prader-Willi, which Angelman syndrome is intellectual disability, uncontrollable laughter, seizures, autism, and then Prader-Willi is all of those things, plus you never feel full. So there's a lot of behavior issues because you're constantly trying to get to food. Mm-hmm. Now, Angelman's and Prader-Willi happen from deletions. Anson has no deletions. He's got 2 additional copies of that entire region, which is 11.3q to 13.1q on the long arm of the 15th chromosome. And Anson has a little bit of extra in the front and a little bit of extra in the back. And he's got 2 extra copies of that on an extra chromosome. So he's got profound autism. He's 12, still in diapers. He's got maybe 150 words. Some kids are verbal. Some kids are nonverbal. Some kids have massive irretractable seizures. Some kids don't. He's had less than 10 seizures, maybe less than 5. He does have profound autism. He is nonverbal predominantly. And it's just tough. That was one of the reasons why we looked at the scale that you get in multifamily. Mm-hmm. Now, before you jump into multifamily and think, oh my God, I'm going to have this wad of bills every first of the month. No. There is no magic real estate potion where on the first of the month you walk around with some wad of bills like a baller. That's not a true picture, not a true representation of how it works. At least not while you're of young age, I don't think. But we realized that we needed to scale to pay for some of his therapies. His ABA is $100,000 to $125,000 a year. And so like when we lost insurance and said we would just pay it, they didn't even know how to process that mentally or within their system. Yeah. Because they had never had anybody say, I'll just pay for it. So he went to public school for about a month and a half while we fixed up the insurance situation. But being able to pay for the diapers and to pay for, we had to get special milk, we had to get thickeners, just all of these things that you have to pay for. And so we knew that we had to find a way to pay for those because residential is great, but it's a very slow roll. To really cash flow residential, I think you probably need upwards of 20 units, maybe 50. You really need a lot of volume. And really to negate some of that vacancy risk too. Because when a residential, like a single family, when it's empty, it is 100% empty. There is nothing coming in from it and you're still paying those mortgages. That's one of the beautiful things about the multifamily is you mitigate a lot of the vacancy risk. And while it may cash flow pretty similarly as far as like how much you're pulling in a quarter or a month, the big difference is when capital events happen, you get a big chunk of change. Like you're going to get 20, 30, 40, 50,000, depending on how much your original investment was. So that's the big difference to me of getting into commercial multifamily is that you've got bigger chunks coming in. And on average, you're going to be doubling your investment about every 5 to 7 years. So that's kind of what really pushed us into multifamily. Do we still do residential? Absolutely. We bought 2 houses like a year or 2 ago for $55,000 apiece. And you're just like, I see that look on your face. You're like, you're getting houses for $55,000? What? Class C's, but still 3 2s with a carport.
Yeah.
They're cash flowing. They cash flow better than our B houses. So there's nothing wrong with residential at all. I love residential, but we needed the big chunks of change. We needed that double up every 5 to 7 years to be able to pay for the expenses associated with Anson. And so that's the other thing is I put it out there, and I did a post last week on LinkedIn about it. And it has been the most looked at post of any post that I've done in the past 2 years. Because it's just, I just put it out there. Special needs families, they really have one of 2 paths to follow. It's stay in poverty or don't.
Yeah.
Because to maintain services until you get a Medicaid waiver for the disability, you have to stay under a certain earning. And that's hard. And so the other direction to go is you look at the numbers, you crunch the numbers, you figure how much you're actually saving due to the government services, and that's how much you have to make. And when we crunched the numbers, it looked like we were saving somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000. And I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that I could earn 50 plus. And that was when we decided we're taking this the other direction. And when I say earn, I'm talking about like I could work and make 50 plus.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't including us doing real estate and all these other things. That was just, I can go back to teaching. I can do this. I can do that. I can work online. I score exams for ET. There were things I could do, and I knew I could make at least 50. And so we went the opposite direction from trying to stay under that income mark and decided to just throw that in the trash and do the best we could to make sure that we're covering Anson's needs. And we've got 3 typical girls also. So we're a family of 6, and we used real estate to help us build the options and build the wiggle room and make it work.
Yeah, that was an awesome post. And I was like, I had no idea. I've known you for a couple of years now, and I had no idea about your background. And when I read that post, it hit me right in the feels. It's quite impressive. And I connected with you through that post a little bit more.
And there's a lot of families in this space that have special needs children, and you don't even know it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And more of those people reached out to me and were like, I have a child with autism, or I have a child with high functioning autism, or I have a child with Down syndrome. I have a child with cerebral palsy. I did a podcast recording a few weeks ago now with Jason Malabute, and he has cerebral palsy, and he is doing syndication. He is at a project or property right now doing due diligence. So I told him, I'm like, you're an overcomer, because I think that when these kinds of things are in your life and in your family, you become an overcomer, because no obstacle is going to keep you from caring for your family and taking care of those you love. And it makes it different, because everybody in this space, even whether it's residential or commercial, everybody in this space is overcoming and has overcome something. And that's the common thread. Maybe it's not a special needs family member, but it's something. Mm-hmm. I met a guy a few years ago, and I didn't know till he came on my podcast that the reason why he liked investing in mobile home communities was because he grew up in one and he wanted to make it better. And I was floored. But awesome. That's the common theme I see in people that are truly successful in the space, is that they are overcomers. They have overcome something. And it's amazing.
Yep. It connects us all. But now, what's your future looking like? What are you looking at next?
We like investing in our backyard. I didn't think that this would ever be the kind of place where we want to really invest. But one of our properties is 15 minutes from the house. The other one is literally less than 4 miles. And when things go sideways, we just show up. During the burning, I was at the property every day for 2 weeks, but I could be. So even though things were just burning down around me, I could still go there and at least feel like I was making a difference. Was I making things worse? Who knows? But in my mind, I felt like I was making a difference just by being there and seeing what was going on and talking to people. And honestly, it kept me away from drinking 10 hours a day, because I was there and I was able to see what was going on and touch it, be there, talk to my on-site girl. And it kept me busy, and it let me feel like I was making a difference. And I learned so much.
Okay. Said. So let's talk about, what is one thing that you learned as you started to make more money, as your wealth increased? What was your takeaway?
Try not to have lifestyle creep.
Perfect. I'm grasping exactly what you're putting down.
It's real easy to have all your groceries delivered and to have everything on repeat order with Amazon. Mm-hmm. And it's real easy to all of a sudden, you were making it on $5,000 a month. Now you're barely making it on 10, 12, 15. And so you just have to recognize when that's happening and just start paring back. Because I just think it's a natural thing. And it's like I used to tell my students, they always thought they were going to be pro football players and basketball players and going to be these millionaires and buy these Rollies and buy these Bentleys. I'm like, baby, you are not going to do any of that. As you make more money, you're going to pay people to do the things you don't want to do.
Exactly. That's the way to scale. I did the Goldilocks method of scaling. I didn't scale enough, and then I scaled too much, and now I'm just. It's exactly where we're going with it. Too many
Yeah, but you
people,
have to
too much money.
Yeah, because it's like I had somebody cleaning my house, I had somebody watching my kids, and now I look back on it and did we need that help? We did. But now that we're making less because now severance is gone, we're having to earn everything we have, and it's harder. And so recognizing, hey, we had some lifestyle creep, and going to the grocery store as opposed to ordering it through the app on my phone or getting mail delivery, not getting the house cleaned as much. I still don't want to do it, but just being able to pare back on those things.
Yeah.
That's really important because you still, whether you're active side or passive side or you're in residential, if you're in residential, you still got to come up with those down payments.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in commercial, you want to be on the LP and the GP side. So you're still going to have big chunks of change, whether it's 25 for a residential or whether it's 25.50 for a commercial investment. You've still got to have some ability to put that kind of money away so that when you need it, you have it. Because regardless of what the economy is doing and regardless of how much value the dollar is losing every day, cash still comes in real handy sometimes.
That lifestyle creep is a true thing. Are you a veteran or a first responder looking to get into real estate, struggling with not knowing how to start, or afraid to get started, or worse? You're listening to the world lie and tell you that a 401k is all you're going to need when you're ready to retire. Well, go ahead and give me a follow on Instagram at bud.evans, where I show my followers how to overcome the fear and knowledge barriers and get to their financial freedom through rental properties. Follow at bud.evans on Instagram for more. So let's go into the soaring four. These are the same 4 questions that I ask every guest that can help someone who is starting out achieve new heights. It's an Air Force thing.
Yeah.
Right. All right, here we go. I think I know the answer to this one. What is one thing that you use to keep yourself motivated?
It's my family, my kids, my son, my daughters. And having those big, huge whys is hard. So you need intermediary whys. You need little whys. So our little whys right now are to pay for the girls' private school because it just went up again. So the little why is, okay, how are we going to get the money to put them in school this year? But it's, for us, it's family. It's always going to be family and family related because we want Anson and the girls, Julianne, Josephine, and Jacqueline, to be the best they can be and the best version of themselves that they can be. And so that's our why. We have bigger whys, of course, but that's the basic one that really it is the reason why I get up.
Great. What is one thing that you learned over time that has completely changed your mindset?
Actually, I think I learned this one recently, and it wasn't so much my own realization as it was my husband's. And he doesn't lose his mind very often, but he was kind of losing his mind, and he was like, we have to cut back on this and we have to cut back on this. And why are you getting that? And we shouldn't be getting this. And then a couple of days later, he said, you know what? This is temporary. This is temporary. Mm-hmm. And it was like all of a sudden we both had the realization of things are hard right now, but this is temporary. Just that first renter was horrendous. The overall trend is up. Our overall trend is up, and we're just in a hard spot right now. And we just need to get through this time period of however long it lasts. And then we're going to keep moving in this upward trend. So just realizing that the hardship you're going through is temporary. Very few things are permanent.
Awesome. What is a tool that you use to keep yourself on track?
I'm not good at this one. So I have really bad ADHD. So really probably the thing that keeps me most on track is procrastination. And I know that sounds really weird, but I procrastinate until there is so much stress behind it that I have no choice but to get it done.
You know what Parkinson's law is? It's if I give you 8 weeks to do a task and I give you 2 days to do a task, you're going to take the 8 weeks to do the task, or you'll get it done in 2 days. The same task.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now for me, I would take that 8 weeks and still get it done in the same 2 days as the 2 days that I was.
Yeah, most people could. But that's the thing. Like if I give you 8 weeks, you'll be like, okay, great. And then the last 2 days you'll cram.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what is one thing you would change if you had to start all over again?
I would have married my husband in 01 instead of 03, and we would have gotten our first house sooner.
Okay. There
I
you
would
go.
have been with him in 01 instead of getting back with him in 03. So we would have been 2 years ahead of the game.
That works. Everything's on a different timeline.
And hopefully it wouldn't be parallel. Hopefully we'd be a lot further along now.
Right?
I have another one too, though.
Go ahead, hit me.
This is an aside. When you find a coaching program or an educational platform or something that you like, even if it costs money that you don't have, figure it out. Because one of the things I did was I cost us 1.5 years of time, because when we first met Joe, I was like, oh, he's so expensive. We can't afford that. Da, da, da. So it took us 1.5 years to get back to him when we realized, hey, this other program sucks. We've been floundering in it for 1.5 years. It took us a lawyer to get out of it. And at that point, when we went back to Joe, his program was more than twice as the cost that it was when I said it was too much. And we still wound up going with him. Just figure it out. Everything is figure outable. And if that means you're calling the program or you're calling the coach and you're crying and you've sold like every extra piece of anything in your house to try and bootstrap it, like, just people work with you. Everybody's human, and people know when you're really honest and you're wanting to do something. And I truly believe that somebody will work with you, but realize that you're always going to go with your first choice. Just don't let it cost you 1.5 years of time. Because again, 2 years earlier, had I stayed with Jason in 2001 instead of breaking up and getting back together in 2003, and I hadn't cost us that 1.5 years of time, now we're talking 3.5 years. Where in the world would we be if we had 3.5 years back?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Angel, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way to do it?
Probably LinkedIn. Angel Williams on LinkedIn. I'm actually Angel Renee on Facebook. I do have a community over there. We've got the Academy Presents REI Rocks community, which I get a hold of people and talk to people through there too. So there's lots of different ways. Our website is theacademypresents.com, and I'm pretty sure contact methods are on there too.
Fantastic. All right. Angel, I can't thank you enough. You're a great person. I really enjoyed talking to you offline, talking to you online. You're so vibrant and energetic. It's awesome. Thank you very much for bringing that.
You're welcome.
Awesome. So for those of you who are listening on the podcast or watching on YouTube, until the next time, amen.